This is Dan Friedman of the Green Music Program. Today's episode is an interview by Team Derringer with the legendary Dean Friedman, who gave us Ariel,
way on the other side of the Hudson,
McDonald's Girl,
I am in love with the McDonald's Girl,
and other top 40 hits.
We can thank our lucky stars.
Dean and I are not related, but we are both originally from New Jersey.
Greetings from New Jersey.
For anyone who wants to meet both me and Dean in person, I will join Team Derringer when they welcome Dean Friedman to Charlottesville, Virginia on March 29th, 2025 for an exclusive once-in-a-lifetime intimate concert.
People always tell me what's your hurry.
Visit today's show notes for a link to obtain your concert ticket, and we'll see you in Charlottesville.
In your sister's room, that's where it started.
Hello, this is Paul.
This is Laura.
And I'm Alton.
We are Team Derringer.
And you are listening to Derringer Discoveries,
where we take you, the listener, on an adventure.
a music adventure.
Listeners, our featured guest today is Dean Friedman, a singer, songwriter, and recording artist who plays piano, guitar, and harmonica. He's from Paramus, New Jersey, here in the U.S.
Got a rich man's dream.
Dean Friedman first hit the charts in 1977 with his song Ariel,
Way on the other side of the Hudson.
an incredibly clever take on boy meets girl.
She was looking for change, and so was
They
I.
fall in love. Boy takes the girl to Dairy Queen, where he learns that she is a vegetarian. First time I'd ever heard of someone being a vegetarian.
She forgot to tell me that she didn't eat me.
And then, of course, the song ends with fireworks lighting up not necessarily the sky, but the television
We
screen.
made love, the bombs bursting in
In the U.S., Ariel peaked at number 26 on Billboard Hot 100 chart and number 17 on Cashbox. Ariel also hit the top 20 in Canada and New Zealand, and in Australia, it, shall we say, graced the lower rungs of the top 100.
In the United States, Ariel stayed on the charts for 5 months as kids like Paul Derringer, our very own Paul Derringer, discovered and fell in love with its unique charm and detailed, believable storyline.
Laura and Alton, Ariel was the first time I'd ever heard of a vegetarian, as I mentioned. And then here's what's so funny. Later on in life, I dated one and married her, and we've been happily married for 33 years. So, Dean, you introduced me to the concept. I think it might have paved the way, because when I was dating my wife-to-be, I was aware of what it meant to be a vegetarian. I tried to respect that fact, even though I'm not a vegetarian.
People ask often if there really was an Ariel. At the time I wrote the song, it was really a composite of all these teenage girls growing up in the suburbs that I had a crush on. But I eventually met her. We were walking our dogs in Riverside Park. I found love, and we got married. We've been married 44 plus years, except her name is Allison. So some of the letters are the same. She's definitely not a vegetarian.
Listeners, the very next year, and that year being 1978, today's featured guest, Dean Friedman, had a top 3 hit in the UK with Lucky Stars.
There's no one for me but you, and you can thank your lucky stars that we're not as smart as we'd like to think we are.
And after Lucky Stars became a major hit, he had another UK top 40 hit with Lydia.
Lydia keeps my toothbrush in her apartment, and she never complains. Well, hardly ever.
Listeners, let's welcome Hitmaker Dean Friedman to our show. Dean, will you introduce yourself to our listeners? And we've already kind of told them who you are, so maybe...
Greetings to all you good listeners. My name is Dean Friedman. I am, I guess I consider myself a multimedia artist, starting with music as a key ingredient, but I've also gotten waylaid into animation and music video production and designing virtual reality video games for Nickelodeon television and all sorts of multimedia efforts. But music has always been a key component of it, and I never stopped being a songwriter or writing songs, and I guess it's something I'm going to be doing as long as I can keep doing it.
You
are listening to Derringer Discoveries.
With listeners in more than 30 countries.
Thank you, Dean. As you well know, and our listeners will quickly realize, after you had 3 solid hits between the US and the UK, your next single in 1982 was officially banned by the BBC in the UK.
The song banned by the BBC is called I Am in Love with the McDonald's Girl.
I am in love with the McDonald's girl.
Dean, tell us how you feel about the song being banned by the BBC.
Well, it was a little disconcerting at the time because eventually it left to the label dropping me.
She is an angel in a polyester uniform.
My being sort of left into the wilderness, kicked out of the music business for almost 20 years.
Holy cow.
And that's because Dean sang about nothing less than a fast food restaurant.
I count my money and then I rehearse what I'm gonna say. I'd like an order of fries, quarter pounder with cheese. I love the light in your eyes. Will you go out with me, please? I am in love with the McDonald's girl.
But the song insisted on being heard. The BBC was convinced immediately upon hearing it, millions of people would rush out and gorge themselves on McDonald's hamburgers, even though I insisted that in the lyric I never actually eat the burger. That didn't persuade them. But in any case, not long after the ban, a then unknown band out of Canada with the unlikely name of Bare Naked Ladies did a cover version, which became their first airplay hit in Canada.
I count my money and then I rehearse what I'm gonna say. I'd like an order of fries, a quarter pounder with cheese. I love the light in your eyes. Will you go out with me, please? I am in love with a McDonald's girl.
Not long after that, a band called The Blenders did a cover of McDonald's Girl and had a #1 record in Norway, of all places.
I count my money, then I rehearse what I'm gonna say. I like an order of fries, a quarter pounder with cheese. I love the light in your eyes. Will you go out with me, please? I am in love with the McDonald's girl.
And then YouTube came along, and suddenly McDonald's Girl went viral all over the world. There are versions of people lip-syncing or do their own versions of McDonald's Girl, acting it out.
I am in love with the McDonald's girl.
For some strange reason, every time someone covered it, they kept changing her age. Because in the original lyrics, she's 15.
My hamburger's cold, I get up ready to go. She's only 15 years old.
Then I got a call from Universal Records when the Blenders were going to cover it. And they said, we'd like to make a couple of changes. We think 15 is too young. And I go, okay. And also that line where you referred to her as a virgin, we'd like to change that as well. So this was an actual conversation I had with the record label. I said, okay, that's fine.
I wanna say how I feel if I could just let go. And when my hamburger's cold, I get it ready to go. She's only 16 years old, and I'm in love with.
But then college groups started covering McDonald's Girl. All the Ivy League colleges did a cappella groups, and she turned 17.
Oh, I'm in love with the McDonald's girl. McDonald's girl. She is an angel in a polyester uniform.
And high school groups all over America were doing cover versions of McDonald's Girl with marching bands and cheerleaders and baton twirlers. She turned 18. Now, I have to believe she's somewhere in her mid-30s at this point. Hopefully, she's got a management position by now. But and it all sounds strange, but it didn't end there because 33 years after I wrote and recorded McDonald's Girl, I finally got a phone call from corporate headquarters of McDonald's saying, Mr. Friedman, we're very pleased to say we'd like to license your song for a national TV and radio campaign. And I said, wow, that's awesome.
I'm in love with the McDonald's girl. Hey, yeah. She is an angel in a golden arches uniform.
Fall in love with McDonald's Premium Roast Coffee. Right now, get any size made the way you take it for just $1 on the dollar menu. It's the simple joy of fresh brewed bliss.
When I'm hanging out with my friends and we're being completely unserious on the rooftop, we like to listen to Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast.
This is DJ from Charlottesville, Virginia. When I'm doing dentistry and I want my patients to relax, we listen to Derringer Discoveries.
Hi, it's Estella Dawn. For a good time, listen to Derringer Discoveries.
皆さん、音楽冒険ポッドキャストの Derringer Discoveries を
The shopping bag ladies, they live in the terminal waiting room.
Dean, one of your tours of the United Kingdom back in 2005 was almost canceled after it was revealed that you were planning to distribute cannabis seeds to purchasers of your latest album. Help us separate urban legend from truth. Tell us about that and what really happened.
Well, Laura, that's exactly what really happened. I had put out, it was the album called Squirrels in the Attic. There was a track on it that I included called Doink Doink, It's Just a Little Joint.
She said, doink doink, it's just a little joint.
But as I was thinking about the upcoming tour, I had a brainstorm. I thought, I need a tour sponsor. So I contacted these cannabis seed distributors all over Europe.
It's a whole lot safer than alcohol.
And at the time, cannabis seeds were perfectly legal to possess in the United Kingdom, as long as they didn't get wet. If they got wet and germinated, then you had a Class C drug that you're not allowed to possess.
I turned to that gal and I said, what the heck is this? And she said, doink doink, it's just a little joint.
Possessing the seeds was fine. You could walk into the police station with a bag of cannabis seeds. They couldn't touch you unless it rained and you didn't have an umbrella. So I sent an email to all these distributors, and I got one particular response that said, yeah, we'd love to support your efforts, and we will contribute 1,000 packets of cannabis seeds, which you can give out to the first 10 buyers of every CD at your gigs. And I thought, wow, that's brilliant. That's so great. And sure enough, they sent me 1,000 packets of cannabis seeds with a little logo on it. I put out a press release to that effect.
When I went off to college, I moved into my dorm, went to my freshman orientation.
Well, within 24 hours, every venue on the 40-city tour, except for one up in Scotland, had emailed or texted or phone called me to cancel the gig.
The dean of students said, prepare to be transformed. You're about to receive a higher education.
In any case, it took me about a week to reconstitute the whole tour. And I did promise not to distribute cannabis seeds.
The very next day, as I was heading off to my very first class, the cute co-ed down the hall said, honey, would you like a pop? And she said, doink, doink, it's just a little joint.
But ironically, those venues that protested the most, where there were full-page ads saying, oh, Dean Friedman concert canceled, those gigs were reinstated. And those were the gigs that sold out because they got the most publicity.
And I guess that qualifies you as an urban legend, right?
Oh.
Very nicely put.
You know, there was one time I was just sitting on a bench under its intoxicating spell, when a little gray-haired lady sat down right next to me and asked, young man, what is that peculiar smell? And I said, doink, doink, it's just a little joint. It's good for your glaucoma and arthritis in your joints. It'll lower your blood pressure, and just like Geritol, it's a lot less toxic than alcohol. Doink, doink.
My name is Alana Joy, and I'm the lead singer of alternative rock band Lost Youth from Cape Town, South Africa. I love listening to Derringer Discoveries.
Hi, this is David Husted, an honorary Derringer from Hollywood, Maryland. I do not like Derringer Discoveries.
This is Addison from Fort Worth, Texas. We are all listening to Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast.
Hi, this is Jeff Roberts from Charlottesville, Virginia. I'm a Derringer Discoveries fan.
Was riding down the thruways, the rain began to pour.
So fast forwarding from the almost canceled 2005 tour to your next tour, looks like you're already booking some dates into 2025. Tell us about your upcoming tour.
Ever since I crowdfunded the Trios Journals back in 2001, I have toured the UK and Ireland at least once or twice a year sometimes. And it's a little bit of a commute, but it's always worth it to be able to get up on stage, share my songs with what's always been a loyal and supportive and enthusiastic audience.
I pulled into a roadside and stumbled through the door.
So yeah, as long as they keep coming out to my shows, I'll keep packing up my gear and flying across the pond and doing what it is I do.
The room was dank and musty. All the furniture was warm.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned before, it's becoming sort of a generational thing. Some of your fans from back in the 70s are now bringing their families.
The man behind the counter said, Sonny, would you like a beer? Black above the bar, red. George Washington slept here.
I always had pretty broad demographics. And even when I started out, with Ariel and Lucky Stars and Lydia and Woman of Mine, the record labels would scratch their heads and say, Dean, we can't get a handle on your audience. There's families here with grandparents and uncles and kids, and then there are punk rockers with green hair.
George Washington slept here. George Washington slept here.
It's always a very eclectic audience. I guess that's partly reflects the fact that my music is pretty eclectic. So I value that. What's fun is that now these days, families are bringing their kids are growing up, and they're bringing their kids.
Peace on earth, let freedom ring. George Washington slept here.
One nice benefit of having my music on Spotify is that they list upcoming concerts in a particular geolocation. And as a result, every time I do a gig anywhere on the planet, there are always young people that show up, and I say, how'd you wind up here? And they say, well, I found your song on Spotify. It was recommended. I really dug it. And I saw you were playing a gig coming up in my area. So it is introducing me to a whole new generation.
George Washington slept here. George Washington slept here. Peace on earth, let freedom ring. George Washington slept here.
Oi, this is Victoria Beebe from the UK, London. Hope you guys are good. You are listening to Derringer Discoveries.
Hey everybody, this is Bob Cowsill with the Cowsills. I really enjoy listening to Derringer Discoveries. I know you guys do too, so keep it up.
I'm Ann Layton, and I'm listening to Derringer Discoveries while writing my poetry.
This is Stephen Choi, joining from London, England. I love listening to Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast.
There is one band that didn't necessarily cover you, but they did something that I would consider one step further than covering you, and that actually is they titled a song and included your name in the title, and they called it The Bastard Son of Dean Friedman.
Well, I had a lovely room.
And they referenced Lucky Stars within the song, just in case anyone doubts which Dean Friedman they're singing about.
And you can thank your lucky stars that you're not the bastard son of Dean Friedman. The bastard son of Dean Friedman.
Any thoughts on that song?
Well, I have to say that it took me by surprise. I got a phone call from a good friend in London at the time. Andy said, Dean, something's going on here that you need to know about. I go, well, what's up? And he says, well, there's a band outside of Liverpool named Half Man, Half Biscuit. And I said, well, that's a funny name for a band. And he said, Dean, that's not the funny part. I said, okay, what's the funny part? And he goes on to explain. He said, apparently they have a best-selling EP, and there's a track on it, as you described, it's titled The Bastard Son of Dean Friedman.
And they reckon that I am, but I hope to God I'm not the bastard son of Dean Friedman.
I confess at first I was a little concerned. I mean, after all, I'm Dean Friedman. I grew increasingly concerned until I finally sat down and calculated that in order for me to have fathered this guy, Nigel Blackwell, he's the lead singer-songwriter for Half Man, Half Biscuit, I would have to have done so when I was 7.
My school went fell behind with this bombshell on my mind. The art teacher said he understood.
Greatly relieved, I finally sat down and listened to the song. It's a great song. It's hilarious. Well written. I hope you'll play some of it.
And in the corridors of fear, I would shed a lonely tear. As ridicule flew at me from both sides. And they mocked me in my mocks and embroidered in my socks. The bastard son of Dean Friedman.
Nigel Blackwell, terrific songwriter. Half Man, Half Biscuit are a kickin' band. But even then, I swore that one day I would exact my revenge. And so I have. It's in a song called A Baker's Tale.
Such forbidden love, Nigel was born. Nigel Blackwell, pray please do tell. How could your parents risk it? Baker's son born of a bun. Half a man, half a man, half a man, half a biscuit.
Which tells the hitherto untold tale of the dubious origins of one Nigel Blackwell from Half Man, Half Biscuit.
So he knows your Baker's Tale song. He's heard it then.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I've met Nigel and the band a number of occasions. They're really great guys. In fact, they invited me up on stage at one of their gigs a few years back to perform my song, the repost to The Bastard Son of Dean Friedman, called The Baker's Tale. I was a little nervous in front of their audience, but by the second chorus, they were all singing along.
For another word was uttered, his mama's buns were buttered. Oh, Nigel Blackwell, pray please do tell. How could your parents risk it? Baker's son born of a bun. Half
a man, half a biscuit. And at the end of that gig, they invited me up on stage to join them for a rousing rendition of The Bastard Son of Dean Friedman.
And you can thank your lucky stars that you're not the bastard son of Dean Friedman. The bastard son of Dean Friedman.
Tina Boonstra, recording and touring artist from the United Kingdom, listens to Derringer Discoveries.
Hello there everyone, it's an early bird here from Italy. I listen to Derringer Discoveries.
Hey, this is Anthony from Fantastic Cat coming to you from New York City. You are listening to Derringer Discoveries.
This is Tim Ryan from Studio 607 in Charlottesville, Virginia, and we're all listening to Derringer Discoveries.
This is Dave the Rave Derringer, former radio disc jockey from Lynchburg, Virginia, USA, reaching out to disc jockeys around the world. You are listening to Derringer Discoveries.
I took her home with me to be watching TV. I net fun and cello and some guy going steady.
Dean, I know you wrote it. I know it was a hit for you. We've been talking about it quite a bit in this episode. Is there something else you can tell us about Ariel that maybe our listeners don't know that would help them to enjoy it all the more? Would you comment, is it possible that your brother influenced the lyrics in this song?
WBAI, New York. 99.5.
BAI? Wasn't it your brother who was collecting money for the BAI?
Standing by the waterfall in Paramus Park, she was working for the Friends of BAI.
It's actually a public radio station in New York City. My brother Aram used to be a supporter and used to go to the mall to raise funds to support the radio station. So actually that was his experience, which I transposed in the song. So all the references and the lyric to Ariel are real things that happened to me or my family or friends growing up in the suburbs.
Way on the other side of the Hudson, deep in the bosom of suburbia.
Dean, before we wrap up this episode, do you have any shout-outs for friends, family, and or fans?
Well, I just want to thank all my listeners and supporters that make it possible for me to continue doing what I do and pursuing my writing and recording and performing. And if folks want to hear more, I invite you to my website, which is deanfriedman.com.
Impressive.
It took me weeks to come up with that URL.
Yeah.
Just send me an email and you'll get on the email list.
I met a young girl, she sang mighty fine. Tears on my pillow and Ave Maria.
Dean, thank you for joining Team Derringer today. You are now an honorary Derringer.
And there was much rejoicing.
Yes, that's right. Dean Derringer.
I'm proud and pleased to be so. Great to meet you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, likewise.
And look forward to catching up with you guys down the line.
Tears on my pillow and Ave Maria.
This has been Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast. Song snippets were used in this episode to aid in the discussion, critique, and analysis of the songs.
Tears on my pillow and Ave Maria.
We encourage you to support Dean Friedman by seeing him in concert, buying his music, and streaming his songs on your favorite digital streaming platforms.
You can follow Derringer Discoveries on social media. We're at Derringer Discoveries on Facebook and at Derringer Pod on Instagram, X, and Threads.
Until next time, this is Laura Derringer.
I'm Alton Derringer.
I'm Paul Derringer.
I guess I'm Dean Derringer.
All right. And you have been listening to Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast.
In your sister's room. That's where it started, in your sister's
You got both on, Alton?
I'm rolling. Let me hit record.
All right. I'd say, Laura, whenever you're ready, go for it.
I'm not on Twitter.
Yeah, it's kind of a dumpster fire, isn't it?
Just because Elon is such an asshole.
You are. You are Dean Derringer. All right, that's the end of the episode. Dean, we do voiceovers if you're willing, and we play them throughout various episodes just to kind of spice life.
Sure. Hey folks, I'm Dean Friedman, and I enjoy listening to Derringer Discoveries on music. You know what? I'm going to have to write this down 1 second. Hey folks, this is top 40 recording artist Dean Friedman from Paramus, New Jersey, deep in the bosom of suburbia. I enjoy listening to Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast. I am recording artist Dean Friedman from way on the other side of the Hudson, deep in the bosom of suburbia, Paramus, New Jersey, and you can catch me on tour in the US or the UK. Tell them you heard me on Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast. I'm very pleased, and I really admire the way you guys put this all together. It's a really cool team effort. It's really nicely synchronized, and I look forward to hearing it.